On this episode, we dive deep into the art of science and time management tailored just for you, the solopreneur. Learn how to master your hours like never before. Say goodbye to overwhelm and hello to productivity. Let's transform the way you run your one-person empire. Hi, I'm Mark, and this is the Mr. Productivity Podcast, the podcast that's all about solopreneur productivity, simplified and delivered weekly in bite-sized 30-minute or less episodes. Now, before we dive into the heart of today's episode, I have something special to share with you. Every month, I host a live masterclass aimed at helping you increase your productivity as a solopreneur. Now, we've covered a wide range of topics so far, everything from gaining clarity in your work to daily effective habits, decluttering your workspace, maintaining health and wellness, mastering time management, and how to achieve deep focus. If you're looking to ramp up your productivity and achieve more as a solopreneur, these masterclasses are a treasure trove of insights and practical tools. Head on over to my website, mrproductivity.com/masterclass, and sign up for the next class, mrproductivity.com/masterclass. Mr. is all spelled out M-I-S-T-E-R. Learn from these interactive sessions, engage with a like-minded community, and transform the way you work. What are you waiting for? mrproductivity.com/masterclass. Now, before we start this podcast episode on time management, I thought it would be a great idea to give you a definition so we don't have any assumptions. We know exactly what the word time management means. And according to Google, it's the ability to use one's time effectively or productively, especially at work. But you know as well as I do that time management can be applied personally and professionally. So why is time management crucial for solopreneurs? Well, time management is vital for everyone, but when it comes to solopreneurs, it's especially critical because we face unique challenges that larger businesses and teams don't. For example, time management is crucial for solopreneurs because you're wearing multiple hats and you have limited resources. And I'm sure you want to avoid burnout. You want to ensure business growth, to improve decision-making, to enhance work-life balance, to meet your deadlines, to build a reputation, for financial efficiency, and for personal fulfillment. That's just why time management is crucial for you as a solopreneur. Now, we solopreneurs, and I am one as well, we have unique challenges that many other people don't. For example, juggling multiple roles. Sometimes you're the CEO. Sometimes you're the marketer. Sometimes you're the customer service person. See where I'm going here? Here's my tip for you. Do one thing at a time. I know you have to wear multiple hats, but do one thing at a time. Which brings me to my next challenge. We, as solopreneurs, have a temptation to do everything. I'm going to give you some tools and tactics in just a few minutes, but resist this temptation. Then there's the overwhelm and burnout potential. The tip here is to take breaks as you need them. And then there's the lack of structured work hours. When you go to a job, you may go there from 8 in the morning until 5 at night, and you get a 1 hour for lunch. When you work from home, like I'm recording this podcast from a spare bedroom I converted to my podcast studio at my house, it's in my house. So there's a gray, very fuzzy line between when I'm working and when I'm with the family. So here's a tip. Create and stick to office hours. Okay? It requires both creation and the stickiness of the office hours. Now, we have to talk about time value. There is the principle of time and there's the principle of value. Not all hours are equal. Here's something you need to tattoo on your brain. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're busy being productive. Let me say that again so you can get your tattoo gun out and put it on your brain. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're busy being productive? What value is the task or project that you're working on providing either you or your clients? You need to answer this question. And then we have to talk about outsourcing and delegation. If we're really going to understand time value, we need to understand outsourcing and delegation. So I teach a framework to my clients called the ODAE method. ODAE stands for outsource, delegate, automate, and eliminate. And here is how it works in its simplest form. Over several days, you write down everything you do. You just write it down. Don't judge. Don't criticize yourself. Just write down everything you do. And then when you have a fairly complete list, you'll never have a complete list. You'll forget some things. That's fine. You sit down and you go, okay, what am I going to do with this list? Well, you're going to go through this list 4 times. The first time you're going to go through, and anything that could be outsourced, you're going to put an O next to it. Then you're going to go through the list again, and anything that could be delegated, put a D next to it. Then you're going to go through it a third time, and anything that could be automated, you're going to put an A next to it. And then you're going to go through it a 4th time, and you're going to put an E next to anything that can be automated. Do not try to do ODAE, go through it once. Doesn't work. Go through it 4 times. And now here's where the magic happens. Anything you put an O next to it, you actually go find out how to outsource it. Google will be your best friend here. If you want to delegate it, Google. If you want to automate it, Google. You want to eliminate it? Just eliminate it. Okay. You don't need Google for that. Okay. So get rid of the stuff that you don't need to do anymore that still needs to be done, or automation can do for you, or you can just get rid of altogether. Now, I love talking about prioritization. So there's a couple tools that you can use to prioritize what you need to do. Prioritization is critical. So the first tool, the first tactic I want to teach you is the Eisenhower box. Now, this has 4 quadrants. The first, quadrant 1, is urgent and important. These are tasks that need immediate attention and also contribute to your long-term goals and values. Now, for example, this may include pressing deadlines, crises, or emergency situations. Quadrant 2 is not urgent, but important. These tasks are essential for long-term success, but don't have immediate deadlines. Activities in this quadrant often relate to planning, relationship building, self-improvement, and setting long-term goals. Spending more time in this quadrant can reduce the number of urgent issues you face, which would be quadrant 1. Quadrant 3, urgent but not important. These tasks demand your attention now, but don't contribute to your long-term goals or values. They might include some emails, phone calls, or meetings. Often these tasks can be delegated. In quadrant 4, neither urgent nor important. These are tasks that don't have an immediate deadline and don't contribute to your long-term objectives or personal values. Activities in this quadrant might include excessive leisure, some emails, or time-wasting activities. Ideally, tasks in this quadrant should be minimized or eliminated through the ODAE framework. Now, here's how you use the Eisenhower box. You list your tasks. You categorize each task for each quadrant, and then you take actions. So, for example, if it goes in quadrant 1, those tasks need to be done immediately. If they're quadrant 2 is not urgent but important. Schedule time to do these, because investing in these tasks can reduce future urgencies. Quadrant 3 tasks are tasks that are urgent but not important. You may be able to delegate these tasks. If not, evaluate if they're really necessary. And then if you put a task in quadrant 4, which is neither urgent nor important, consider eliminating these tasks or at least reducing the time spent on them. You do this for a while, you're going to start be able to instantly recognize when a task comes along. Oh, this is the quadrant it goes into. Now we have to talk about the Pareto principle, the 80-20 guy. I love this principle, but here's the thing people misunderstand about it. 80-20. I believe you should spend 80% of your time working on needle moving activities. Now, if you're asking me, Mark, but what is a needle moving activity? I can't answer that question. And here's why. I don't know you. See, I teach a 3-step framework in order to plan your day. It starts with why, WHY, which feeds your goals, which goes on your calendar as a plan. So if you're asking me what are the activities I should spend 80% of my day on, well, I'm going to ask you what your why is. I'm going to ask you what your goals are, because if you don't know your why and you don't know your goals, well, what are you going to spend 80% of your time on? Hope that makes sense to you. Now, other tools and tactics you can use is the ABCD method, which is similar to the Eisenhower box. You just give a category or a rating to all your tasks. Is it important? It'd be an A. If it's not as important, maybe a B. Okay? And then there's the Ivy Lead method. IVY, new word, LEE. So the Ivy Lead method is a simple yet effective time management and productivity technique that has been around for over a century. It was introduced by, guess who? Ivy Lead, who was a productivity consultant to the employees of Bethlehem Steel Corporation in the earliest 20th century. The CEO of the company at the time, Charles M. Schwab, was so impressed by the results that he ended up paying Ivy Lead for a significant amount of money for his advice. Now, here is how the Ivy Lead method works. Number one, you list tasks for the day. At the end of each workday, write down the 6 most important tasks you need to accomplish the next day. The number 6, according to the Ivy Lead method, is crucial. Not more, not less. If you have fewer than 6 tasks, that's okay, but never more than 6. Then you want to prioritize the list. Once you have your 6 tasks, prioritize them in importance. The most crucial task is the one that, if completed, will have the most significant impact or consequence. Then you focus on the first task. The next day, start with the first task on your list and work on it until it's completed without getting distracted or moving on to another task. When you finish the first task, you move down the list. Okay? Go to the second one and the third one and so forth. Continue working through your list in order. If you don't finish all the tasks by the end of the day, move the unfinished task to the list for the next day. And then you rinse and repeat. At the end of the day, make a new list of 6 tasks for the following day, including any uncompleted tasks from the previous day. Now, I know this sounds kind of complicated, but it's really not. What it is, you list your 6 tasks for the day. You prioritize those 6 tasks. You focus on the first task, then the second one, then the third one, then the fourth one, and then you repeat it. So don't overcomplicate these things. On the podcast, as you're listening, you're probably on a run or on a walk or on a plane. It's like, oh, it's really complicated. Guess what? You can listen to this episode again. Okay. Here are some other strategies and tools for effective time management for you. Time blocking and batching tasks. So what I like to do, because I subscribe to a lot of email newsletters, but I don't always have time to read them when they hit my inbox. So I will schedule time on my calendar, read emails, or spend time engaging on social media, or doing the dreaded admin work. You know, those things that have to be done, but they don't really move the needle. And maybe personal time, going for a walk, getting some vitamin D, the sun, that kind of thing. Put those things on your schedule, but instead of reading an email when it comes in, say, okay, at 3:00 every afternoon, I'm going to spend an hour reading my emails. That way you don't have to stress. You can check your email. You can read and reply to any client emails, but everything else goes on the time you have allocated for it. Now, I want you to be very careful to avoid common time wasters. This is email and messaging platforms, social media, and meetings. Make sure everything on your calendar has a reason. Don't go to a meeting because you were invited to a meeting. Don't go on social media because everyone else is on social media. Don't check your email because you're itching to. Always, always have a reason. Now, I want to talk real briefly about the importance of downtime and self-care, especially when you're a solopreneur. Now, breaks and relaxation are essential for your productivity, your creativity, and your problem solving. You've got to make scheduling me time important, because if you don't, if you get into the phase of overwork, there are a lot of dangers. Here are some mental health implications from overwork: increased stress level, burnout, depression, anxiety, decreased cognitive function, memory problems, reduced creativity, and emotional instability. Here are some dangers of overwork for the physical health implications: sleep disorder, weakened immune system, heart disease, weight gain or loss, digestive issues, increased risk of type 2 diabetes, musculoskeletal disorders, reduced libido, vision problems, hair and skin issues. So be very careful with working too much. Now, as a solopreneur, in addition to everything I just gave you, you've got to cultivate a growth mindset. Embrace the failures of your life as learning opportunities, because that's what they are. Practice continuous learning through books and courses and seminars. I personally have a non-negotiable to read a minimum of 30 minutes every day. It's usually more than that. And I try to learn 5 out of 7 days a week. This means I'm watching videos, courses, and whatnot. So with all that I just gave you on the podcast today, it's a lot. I get it. But I want to ask you this question. What is one change you'll make as a result of listening to this episode? I know you may want to make 7 or maybe 12, but there's power in one. So what one change are you going to make? Now, I don't want you just to think about it. I want you to tell someone. Actually, what I want you to do is I want you to practice and embrace social accountability. What this is you make a video on your smartphone and you upload it to social media. Who knows? People may come in droves to help you achieve your goals. And number 2, you may inspire someone to do the same thing. Now, speaking of other people, if you found value in this episode, would you do me and them a huge favor? Would you please share this episode with them? I would appreciate it, and I know your friends would as well. And if you want to know anything about me, my next live masterclass, you want to read my blog, you want to find out about my one-on-one coaching or my community, anything you want to know about me, Mr. Productivity can be found at MrProductivity.com, M-I-S-T-E-R, MrProductivity.com. Thank you so much for your time and attention for listening to this episode of the Mr. Productivity Podcast. I'll be back real soon with a brand new episode, but until then, stay productive, but most importantly, stay positive.